We hear so much about the effects of masturbation, but what about the flip side? What happens if you just stop? It's a question that doesn't get talked about nearly as much, so today we're going to dive right in and find out.
So let's get straight to it. What actually happens when you decide to press pause on this? Well, the answer is way more complex than you might think. It sets off this whole chain reaction in both your body and your brain.
It's not just one single thing that changes. It's really more like a domino effect. When you take a break, it can trigger a whole series of reactions. And believe it or not, the very first domino to fall is your own body. All right, so let's break this down, starting with the purely physical side of things. Here's a look at how your anatomy actually responds when you stop. Okay, so the physical reaction is actually different depending on your anatomy. For those with male anatomy, the body has this pretty fascinating way of handling it. Any unused sperm just gets reabsorbed. And sometimes the body kind of takes matters into its own hands through what we call nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. Now, for those with female anatomy, the changes are usually a lot more subtle. Since regular activity boosts blood flow down there, taking a break might mean a decrease in that flow, which can sometimes lead to a bit of pelvic tension or even some mood swings.
So, here's the really crucial thing to remember. While all these little changes are happening, they are not harmful at all. It's just your body adjusting to a new normal. Sexual activity isn't, a requirement for good health, and this is just its natural way of responding.
Okay, so that's the body, but the story doesn't stop there, not by a long shot. Next up, what's going on inside your brain? We're talking about the actual chemistry of quitting. All right, to really get what's going on here, we have to talk about one key player in your brain, dopamine. You've probably heard of it, right? It's that feel-good hormone. It's a huge part of our brain's reward system, and it gets released during all kinds of pleasurable stuff, including this.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. So you do something that feels good, your brain gets that hit of dopamine and its reward system just lights up like a Christmas tree. But when you suddenly stop, it can seriously feel like you've just pulled the plug. This is a huge reason why urges can feel stronger and why you might even get a little more irritable. What you're feeling is essentially a mild form of withdrawal.
And look, this isn't just some theory people have. There's actual research to back it up, specifically a really interesting study from 2021. What this study found is honestly fascinating and kind of backwards from what you'd expect. It showed that people who were actively trying their best to avoid it actually ended up having stronger urges. It's like the very act of trying to suppress the thought just made it more powerful. Yeah, and a quote from the source material just nails this feeling perfectly. Our brains go from telling us to screaming at us when it reaches its breaking point. It's such a powerful way to describe how trying to ignore a craving can just turn up the volume on it. Okay, so this brings us to a huge part of this whole conversation, where we really need to separate the hype from the reality. Does quitting actually lead to better focus, or does it just lead to a whole lot of frustration?
I mean, if you've spent any time online, you've probably seen this. There are whole communities and movements that make these massive claims, right? They say that quitting is going to supercharge your focus, give you insane willpower, and boost your motivation through the roof.
But, and this is the absolute key, when you go looking for the science to back this up, well, it's just not there. There is no concrete research, no solid evidence to support those claims. For the most part, these are just personal stories, not proven science.
In fact, it's not just that there's no proof of the benefits. Sometimes quitting for the wrong reasons can actually come with its own set of risks. Let's take a look at when stopping might actually do more harm than good.
And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, fine, so maybe there are no proven benefits, but what's the actual harm in just trying it out? And that is a totally fair question. The harm isn't in stopping itself, it's all about the why and the how.
Well, for someone who's already struggling, maybe with feeling addicted or dealing with a lot of shame, quitting cold turkey can totally backfire. Like we saw, it can actually make the urges more intense, it can ramp up stress, and most importantly, it can really hurt your mental health by making those feelings of guilt or shame even worse if you feel like you've failed.
And this, right here, is exactly why trying to go it alone isn't always the answer. If you're struggling with this stuff, talking to a qualified medical or mental health professional is so critical. They can give you real guidance that's actually for you with zero judgment.
Because let's be real, so much of this isn't just about what's happening inside our own heads. It's also about the world we're living in. We have to talk about the role of shame and society in all this.
I mean, let's be honest. This is not a topic we always talk about openly, right? For so many people, the norms from society, culture, or religion can create this big cloud of guilt and shame around something that's a completely normal human behavior. And that pressure, it can have some very real effects on your mental health.
Which is why this next part is so important to hear, loud and clear. There is absolutely no shame in masturbating or in sex, period. The only way we get past all that stigma is by talking about these things with empathy and understanding. So, after all of this, the biology, the brain chemistry, the whole societal pressure thing, what's the bottom line? It's this. The decision to continue or maybe take a break for a little while is 100% personal. It's your call and your call alone.
And that's really the final thought I want to leave you with. The most important question you can ask yourself isn't whether you should stop. It's digging a little deeper and asking yourself why you feel like you have to. Because the answer to that why, that's where the real understanding begins.